Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm joined yet again by Theo Lucier, where we dive deep into the body as a temple, as a integral part of your sacred and magical practices. So, if you're someone who's serious about your spiritual or energetic work, don't sleep on your health because it's very important. So, we get into exploring and unpacking that topic and also looking at some very powerful and practical ways to optimize your body at the cellular level, have more energy in your daily life, and yes, tap even deeper into your spiritual potential. That's coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Wizard Factory podcast, where together we explore the universe through ourselves. My name is Logan Hart. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. This place is all about giving you the spiritual tools and mindsets to live a more free and empowered life. So if that sounds good to you, join our tribe, be part of the journey, subscribe down below, and hit the notification. If you're not new here, welcome back. I'm very excited about today's episode. Again, guys, I know I've been really slow on content, just really finishing up a few major projects that's literally been this entire year, and then I'm going to be getting back to content really hard, so I'm looking forward to that. But in today's episode, it's going to be a good one. I'm joined yet again by my good friend Theo Lucier, who's actually not a first-timer on this podcast. We've done a few episodes together on the trendy word biohacking, but really what it is biological mastery and optimizing your physical vessel that we have to use or get to use as we do our spiritual work here in this incarnation. And that's so extremely important and often gets so overlooked. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Theo. Welcome back to the show, my man. Good to see you. Your hair's been growing out, I see.
I just got a cut. Yeah. I cut
Nice.
an inch. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's they say that longer hair makes you more sensitive to subtle energies. Who
I've
knows?
heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an antenna for your field. So who knows? Maybe I used to have really long hair, so maybe if I get back there, we can see if that's actually true.
Yeah, right on, man. Cool. So, this is such a great topic because Theo, you're very, very well versed in the straightforward health side of things, which
Yep.
you could call exoteric or kind of a general something more mass appeal, but
Yeah.
you're way more like spiritual than many of the so-called health figures and teachers out there that just really stick to that one thing and don't get too esoteric with it. So you're really the perfect person for this episode, because we're going to start off here by talking about the body as the temple. This
Hmm.
episode is called the Temple of Luxor, because, well, the idea kind of came to me. I've been studying a lot about ancient Egypt, and the Temple of Luxor is this really incredible sacred site over there that is actually a diagram of the human body. This is a newer discovery just in the past maybe couple decades or so. The research of a man named Schwaller de Lubitz,
Mm.
French person, brilliant, brilliant work, and so that really just kind of struck me because he wrote the book The Temple of Man, and so that sort of correlation between the temple and the vessel, and Luxor literally means light in Latin. So it's like the temple of light, right? And so again, just really wanting to emphasize the importance of the body, not only just in your everyday life and your ability to enjoy just simple things, but those who are engaged in this channel and following all the stuff that we get into, including magic and meditation and things like this. The body affects all of those and the mind, but don't forget, the mind is part of the body. The brain, the mind lives in the brain, and the brain is part of the body. And so you have to have all of those pieces in line because it's the law of correspondence, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. And so you have to have those things all in alignment. That's what all these spiritual concepts like the Trinity and the Trivium and all of this is about, alignment of, say the mind, body, and soul, right? And if any one of those is out of tune, out of alignment, it's going to affect the whole big picture because that's how nature works. It's about energetic ecology, right? So before I carry on, Theo, do you have anything you want to kind of riff on that?
Yeah, this is awesome. It's a subject dear to my heart because I'm lucky enough to be around the quote unquote conscious community, natural health community. Um, I guess you could call it new age, um, but conscious people that are interested in subtle energies and spirituality and things of that nature. And there's a certain segment of that population that is just fully invested in the idea that everything is energy, everything is spiritual, and nothing material matters, nothing in the three-dimensional realm matters. And so they spiritually bypass the
Mm-hmm.
physical realm. And that is just not how it works. Like, I get it. And yeah, they're actually right. Like, fundamentally, everything is energy. If you zoom in to a small enough scale on a molecule, it's just a vibrating band of energy at the smallest, Planck scales or what have you. But we're in this three-dimensional vehicle, this body, and we straddle both realms. When on the one half we're in the physical, and the other half we're in the spiritual, and that's reflected in lots of different ways that are accessible to anyone. I mean, they say the 4 to 4:30 a.m. is when the veil's the thinnest between the realms, and that's when people have a lot of dreams. And people who are activated and switched on, they may have shamanic downloads at that hour and insights. Um, but it's tough to see folks completely bypass the physical, um, and everything is energy when their body's falling apart. And in my own case, I used to physically be kind of a wreck. I had a lot of noise in my body from toxins, from processed foods, from surrounding myself with EMF and blue light. And that created a lot of noise internally. And so I wasn't able to really feel anything, especially I wasn't able to feel subtle energies or work with subtle energies. And it kind of kept my consciousness down. But when I use physical methods of detox in particular, um, I could feel more, because the noise in my body quieted down. I think, if you want to use a left brain approach, you'd say my signal to noise ratio improved a lot. And so I could feel more, I could hear more, I could taste more. I could see more clearly, and I mean that in the visual sense, but also the spiritual. And I think this is a freaking awesome conversation to have, because you should be both. I mean, I know you're going to jump into some examples here. I have some notes I wrote down, with the different esoteric practices of different cultures throughout time. But, like in Taoism, they were meditating all the time, and then their bodies started to fall apart, and they couldn't meditate very well. So then they got into physical exercises, and there's tons of different disciplines, but Kung Fu is one of them. And they became strong, and then they could meditate longer. I mean, it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a great point is how far back this goes, this idea of the interlinking between health and spirituality. It's interesting when you think about that because if you look at these ancient practices, you had Egyptian priests that had specific purification rituals where they were, bathing and fasting before doing sacred duties and things like that, herbal remedies, you know, uh, Greek philosophers such as Hippocrates, who was very kind of synonymous with ancient medicine, and that's linked back to sort of the symbolism still used to this day of the caduceus and the rod of
Hmm.
Asclepius. So, like you said, yoga and meditation, all of these things you could sort of look at as health is spirituality and spirituality is health, because it's like they feed into each other as well. The healthier you are, the more you're increasing your spiritual capabilities, but it does work the other direction as well. The more healthy you are spiritually, the more that will be reflected in your physical body, your mental health, your energy levels, and things like that, because I do believe a lot of diseases are actually caused by spiritual ailments. So
Absolutely.
it's such a
Yeah. I mean,
fascinating, just simple concept of looking at this as a whole.
one reinforces the other. It's that hermetic principle that you opened with from the Kybalion, as above, so below.
And polarity as well,
Yeah, yeah, the law
balance.
of law of polarity and balance. I mean, certainly, there's lots of natural health systems out there that can detect physical disease before it manifests because they use subtle energy detection methods. And how that works exactly, I don't know, but certainly your morphogenetic blueprint can be affected by things like strong emotions, feelings, which I consider kind of in the spiritual, energetic realm, and other factors. And then downstream, that'll manifest as a physical ailment. I mean, German new medicine is based entirely on that one concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another way to look at this too, again, as per the title, the Temple of Light, or being this sort of light vessel, is, spirituality at its deepest, most fundamental level. And I've talked about this extensively, especially if you want to check out what my episode, What is Spirituality? Um, it boils down to consciousness. Well, as from the spiritual
Mm,
perspective, we know that consciousness is not
hmm.
generated from the body, but rather received, right?
Hmm.
So you think of like a TV show or something like that. All the characters can be on point, all their wardrobe, and they're delivering their lines perfectly, and their emotions are coming through, and that broadcast is sending out through the ether, but your TV is a piece of crap. It doesn't matter how good all of the production value is on the other end if you're not receiving that signal properly. So that's really what this is about, is making sure your hardware is optimal to receiving that frequency, that signal of consciousness to come in, nice and clear, 4K, high definition audio, all that good stuff. That's how I look at this. And that's really what this is, and especially kind of looking at the body from the cellular level. But we'll get that, get into a little bit more of that later on here. But, juxtaposing that of like the importance of optimizing, but then keeping in mind we are very much in spiritual warfare. And one big aspect of that is biological warfare, right? What one way or another, food and the air and the water and pretty much everything we come in contact with is being weaponized and trying to keep us sick and keep the population low just like they want it, all these kind of things. And so a good slave just says, "Oh, whatever, it tastes good, live happy and die young," but a free man, an empowered human being, a sovereign being says, "Fuck that. I, deserve the best life possible. I'm not going anywhere, as least as long as I can. You're going to live as long and as fully as you possibly can, which is partially under your control. That's what sovereignty means, is you're self-governing. You have autonomy over yourself. You decide what choices you're going to make that are choosing health or death. It's one or the other, right? So it all comes down to choice always, and that's what empowerment truly is.
I completely agree. That was really well stated about there's this pure high definition signal out there, but if the receiver is degraded or in poor condition, you can't see a clear picture. You can't really receive well. I mean, the best recent example I have of that is I just completed a 7-day dry fast.
Oh yeah.
Well, not just, but a couple months ago, and it still feels recent because it was really, really effing hard. But on the morning of the seventh day, I woke up at 4 a.m. And it was lightly raining outside, and I walked around outside barefoot and just a pair of shorts. And I could literally feel the thrumming of cosmic source energy above me, kind of entering in through the crown chakra, going through my body, and then I could feel the earth energy below me, rooting me, and I could feel the circulation between the two. I know it sounds crazy, but when you read Russian sources on dry fasting, they actually say that that is the primary benefit. Basically, all the noise in your body gets quieted down so much, you are perceptive to natural energies far, far above normal. And that was my experience. I mean,
Wow.
I was like, okay, I'm out here. I can feel this just river of energy pouring down onto me. And I said, well, let's be practical about this. Like, what do I want to achieve? So I had a little conversation with my heart, because the heart is the receiver. Essentially,
Hmm.
it's the largest electromagnetic organ in the body. And I just said, hey, heart, like, whatever it is you have to do, let's just throw open the umbrella, and let's process as much of this energy as we can in this moment. And it was just like this huge amount of like positive kind of white light style energy. And I said, okay, source, whatever this is, if there's any feelings, beliefs, emotions in my body, physical body, and my energetic bodies that no longer serves me, please, let's just burn that out now. And it was like this big shakeout, and it just was out. And ever since then, I felt different. I've been more coherent. I've been more organized. I've been less stressed. Um, I mean, and to bring that back to your point, I don't recommend this for everybody. I mean, a 7-day dry fast can actually be dangerous, if you're not adequately prepared for it. But all the noise in my body was just gone, and I could feel these energies that are not normally available to people, and it was awesome.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah, I've been following your journey with that through your emails, but you didn't share that, so that was new information to me. That's really cool. It makes total sense. As even somebody like yourself, I know you eat really clean, but think about somebody who doesn't eat so clean, and there's
Hmm.
talk about taking noise, right? Everything is information. Think about the Matrix, especially there's parts of the
Yep.
Matrix where you're literally like when the woman's eating the pie or cake or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yep.
you see the code going in and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
into the body. That's what I'm thinking of. So just think of the noise of like some Cheetos or Diet Coke or something like that that's constantly going through there, how
Yeah.
much that drowns out your connection to the natural world, because that's,
That's
man, that's it right there, especially from, my pagan and animistic perspective. It's all about experience. You, your inner world and your outer
mhm.
world and where they connect. And that is your sensory experience, right? That's you taking in all of that data, all of that code from sensory input into
Mhm.
your internal world. So like
Yeah.
clearing that up and just like really dialing in on that, that's so powerful. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of ancient cultures had purification rituals for various religious or spiritual ceremonies, and that was a big part of that. Was it makes you more sensitive to um, these spiritual ascension energies. I mean, in a lot of traditions, like you wear all white. Well, why is all white? White contains all of the colors of the spectrum all at once. That's why it's white. It's very balanced and pure. And, black is the absence of color. And that's probably why it's not included in purification rituals and spiritual ceremonies for the most part.
But
There
it
are
looks so
some.
badass though.
It does. It does look really. That's why I have a black shirt on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
great.
does look cool. But yeah, I mean, there's the case to clean out, energize, take care of, and maintain your physical body if you're interested in working with subtle energies, spirituality, what have you. The case is clear. Like you got to do it. You got to do both.
Yeah, 100%. Uh, as well, I was just thinking about anyone who has ever experienced fasting, especially slightly longer fasts, I'd say at least 2 to 3 days and beyond there, you realize just how much food is addiction as opposed to need, if that makes sense. Like, yes, we do have
Hmm.
to eat, but when it comes to the foods that we choose on a daily basis and where those cravings and stuff come from, it's all of the parasites in your body and your
Yeah.
insulin resistant
Hmm.
metabolism being like, sugar, carbs, give me that, because it's having withdrawal symptoms. So
Well,
fasting is definitely one of the best and most straightforward too healing modalities there is.
I have an interesting thing to throw in there. I was talking to Holland Franklin. She's kind of a mentor of mine in the subtle energy and dowsing world. She's been doing it for 50 years. And she said anytime she's done a parasite cleanse or, let's say, heavy metals detox, something of that nature, um, unhelpful relationships in her life will leave. So she's mentioned to me she did a parasite cleanse, and one person who was kind of parasitic on her and her time just left on their own.
Hmm.
So these physical detoxes often manifest energetically as well, just like the energetic stuff will manifest physically.
Hmm.
But
That's
kind of
great.
kind of cool, right? Like
Yep.
like it's
It's
you know
correspondence
it,
once again.
it yeah, exactly. Law of correspondence, exactly. So the real trick is to, I mean, a 7 day dry fast was barely accessible to me, and this is all I do. So it's not accessible to most people. I mean, you can throw in a 1 or 2 day or whatever, but the real thing is like, how do you do this on a daily basis? Like, how do you keep your body clean and maintained day in and day out? Because really, what moves the needle is consistency.
Hmm.
And to be consistent about a natural health practice, it has to be like really easy. It has to be like basically no friction. And, you know, you got to have your daily detox drivers and daily cellular energy drivers and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Whatever that is for you, like getting more sunlight, working out, I mean, there's so many different ways to access that pathway.
Absolutely. And there is one way that we're going to get into a bit more in depth later on in this episode. So stay tuned for that. But just one more thing before we sort of pivot into the more
Yeah.
nuts and bolts aspect of this is, again, viewers of the Wizard Factory know we talk a lot about magic on here, and so it goes just beyond just the basic. I mean, consciousness, getting that frequency. That's like square one. That's the
Yeah.
kindergarten the beginning of the process when it comes to spirituality. But
Yeah.
where the real power is in practicing your magic, and that's as you all know, that's not just about doing ritual. It definitely includes that. I do that kind of stuff as well, but that's more special, very specific. I'm trying to, do bigger life events and changes and navigate stuff like that, manifesting bigger outcomes. But magic on a daily basis is really about your daily rituals. It's not about drawing the circle and lighting candles and all of those things. Again, those are great, but your daily ritual is so much more simple and more just kind of like seemingly normal on the surface. And again, that's why like daily choices and stuff like that, but also where you put your intention and your attention and your focus and your energy into. That's just as much magic as anything. And so with that said, again, having your body and your mind optimized is going to heighten your ability to it's going to amplify your intention, your focus, and making your magical practices more effective and more efficient. So again, taking it all the way to that next level of full activation as a human being isn't just about being, right? Again, with the new age stuff, it's all about the being and just be here now and all that. And that's great, but the doing is just as important, as anything else, because it's called the great work, right? You can't do
Hmm.
work without doing to be activated. And
Yeah.
and it's all about your creativity. That's
Yeah.
what, embodying your divinity is to be a creator, a fractal of the all, basically, right? So I just wanted to, really emphasize that, take it to the next level. Magic is really where the work is done, and this applies just as much to that. Being as effective as you can in that.
Totally agree.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just want to take a quick moment to offer you a special gift. It's the free initiation package download. This is a free download package that includes the Toolbox mini course. I created this package to equip you with all of the essential tools you need for any type of energetic or magical practice for anyone serious about their spiritual development. It's comprised of 3 parts: the circle, the breath, and the voice, where you'll learn how to cast the circle of the Magi, various breathwork techniques, including a powerful guided breathwork meditation, rune galler, and more. You'll also get access to the Inner Sanctum, our private Facebook group and Discord server, as well as some Wizard Factory wallpapers for desktop and mobile, all for free. And for those who've already seen this course, I'm happy to announce that this is a brand new remake with better production and even more information. You can find the link to get yours in the description below. So check it out, and let's get back to the content. So let's kind of dial down into more of the nuts and bolts aspect of health, now that we've sort of illustrated this concept, this temple of light, this why you should optimize. I
Yep.
think some of my audience are probably pretty health conscious, and maybe a good number aren't, or just don't, they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like I do this and that with my spiritual practice, but I don't care about what I eat or smoke cigarettes or things like that. And, I'm not trying to come off holier than thou. But again, the whole point of this episode is to like make you think again about that, right? Just really reconsider what are the implications. If you're a powerful wizard now but you don't put any thought or effort into this, just think of how much better you could be if you started kind of implementing some of this type of thinking. And that's all we're trying to do here, is just to kind of get you thinking in a different direction about health, because it is very, very important. So if you had something to say
It's
about
just
that.
another tool in your kit.
Yep.
Yeah, you just,
Holistic.
yeah, it's just another tool. It doesn't have to be a lifestyle. It doesn't have to be something crazy. It's just, if you're super interested in, spiritual practices, this will help.
Exactly. So Theo, I've learned a lot from you over the time that I've been following you, especially about a different way of looking at the body, right? First of
Hmm.
all, it is a machine. It's not merely a machine, but it is a machine. It's a biological machine. And if you want to understand how to make something the best it can be, from like, say, if you wanted to, take care of your car,
Hmm.
you'd have to learn a little bit about how it actually works,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to be able to change your oil or your spark plugs if you don't even know where to find those parts or that sort of thing. And so what I've learned from you is a new perspective on the body, especially the power aspect. And I don't mean like strength power, I mean literally plug into a wall power, right? Like
Yeah.
the juice, right? And that's looking at the body from the cellular level being really the most important layer. It's all a fractal, right? Of course,
Yep.
we've talked about this, but if you want to get down to the most high leverage realm or layer of reality that you can work within when it comes to health, I think it's the cellular level. Would you agree with that?
100%.
And then understanding that from the sort of the body as an electric machine. So
Yes.
I would love for you to expand on that concept.
So I went back and I listened to our previous podcasts as well as myself and other ones. And one of the things that I would say I ran afoul of is that I was using these complicated explanations of the body electric and what fundamental deep health really is and how electricity relates to that. So I'm going to try and simplify it a lot because it sounds cool to use these complex explanations, but if you can't take it and use it right away after hearing it, it it's not worth anything. So the bottom line is that at a fundamental level, your health depends on physics and not chemistry.
Mm,
There is no chemical reaction in your body that happens without the movement of electrical charge first.
wow, that's
So
profound in and of itself.
that's the key thing to understand. So, modern medicine uses a chemical and chemistry based approach, and they're missing the point. I mean, you can focus on biophysics, and there's an interesting story here. If you look at the American medical system, it's chemical based, it's drug based, right? um, where the Soviets did not have the budget that the US did for drug development. They literally couldn't afford to spend $1 billion to develop one drug. They focused on biophysics. And, between them and some of the former Soviet satellite states, they advanced biophysics to a level where they use that in hospitals in treatment today, where they're adding, good charge to the body and taking out bad charge, basically. So the easy way to understand this is that things that are unhealthy for you steal electrical energy from your body, specifically
Mhm.
from your cells,
Or electrons, right?
right? Electrons. And all an electron is people make this really complicated. An electron is just a little piece of electricity. It's like if you had like a shirt and you pulled a thread out. It's like a piece of the shirt, right? And the whole shirt is like a, electrical charge. So an electron is just a piece of electricity. That's it. Um, and so um, you need to, and so I believe where I was at, as I said, bad things steal electrons from the body. Good things add them to the body.
Donate. Hmm.
They donate, and that is the entire thing right there. So in life, you need to focus on limiting things that steal voltage from your body and focus on things that add voltage. And all of this happens at a cell level. And so it's very important, especially to focus on the red blood cells. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But just to give people an example of things that steal electrons. They steal charge from the body, and they increase inflammation. So inflammation is a low voltage state in the body. That's what that is. So
Mm,
things that are inflammatory in nature that steal electricity from your body are like processed foods and you know candy and like fragrances that have like
hmm.
you put them on your,
Synthetic
yeah,
stuff.
like the synthetic stuff that they have a specific type of charge that the body has to neutralize, and so it steals electrons from your body. Um,
Mm.
things that add electrical charge to your body that is helpful to it are, it's sunlight is like a very common one. That's through the photoelectric effect. Movement, so squeezing and stretching your fascia. Your fascia is a piezoelectric crystal, liquid crystal, and when it's compressed or stretched, it actually generates electrical charge, believe it or not. So working out is actually an electron donor. Vitamin C, huge electron donor. Any antioxidant, so like fruits in particular, when they're fresh, they are big electron donors. That's why in a lot of cultures they eat fruits for dessert, because it adds electrons, which helps some of the foods they eat are inflammatory, and that helps negate that.
Mm.
So that's kind
Interesting.
of the whole setup. Is we're physics first, chemistry
Mhm.
second. That's what you need to focus on.
Dude, that's so awesome, and you really said that extremely well also. And there's a couple of things that kind of came to mind. First of all, when you mentioned the dessert aspect, is like you think of the common practice of eating dessert, eating a sugary treat
Mhm.
after a meal. It just kind of made me think that's like the modern and bastardized version of that, because instead of so it's like maybe we're somewhat trained, right, culturally through generations of that practice to crave something sweet after a meal because of this practice. But instead of eating fruit that's going to have that effect, like you said, to neutralize, oh, we're just going to eat even more inflammatory foods full of sugar and stuff like processed sugar, I mean, and things like that. So that just kind of struck me as funny, because it's just
Yeah,
like it's so typical of everything that was once good or had a good reason behind it
been bastardized.
gets corrupted and then ends up
Yeah.
being like the exact opposite of what it was intended for. But um so it seems like to me, when we're talking about the body as a cellular energy system or an electric
Hmm.
machine, my one of my questions was going to be what is needed for this system to run optimally. And based on what you've said so far, it sounds like the main thing is an abundance of electrons or electric energy in that. I mean, those are one and the same. Oh, and I was also going to mention, do you see, the listeners now, are you seeing how this perspective is the thing that ties it all together? So when you were talking about the exercise creating this same form of energy as eating the right foods, right? So even though you could see diet and exercise are two different things, but we know somehow they relate to health, this is actually showing you how it's connected and how it actually translates to what's happening inside the body.
Yeah. So, I mean, the ultra simple thing, the ultra simple model to look at this is that you are a big battery, and so you want to keep your battery charged as high as possible all the time. So what does that look like? Like if you have a battery and the terminals are corroded, it's not going to accept a charge very well. So you got to clean the battery terminals. So in the human body, that looks like detox, right? And then you want to plug your battery into the best source of power available. So for us, that's these natural health practices that we've all talked about. Um, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the only other thing is, the container that holds the battery um, should be in good condition. And in the human body, that container is the cell. Every cell is a little capacitor, which it basically is just a simple battery. It holds charge. But if you eat seed oils, vegetable
Mm-hmm.
oils, canola oil, um, that type of fat is actually it's an electrical insulator, and in the absence of other healthy sources of fat, your cell membranes will incorporate seed oil fats, which are plastic fats, and they're insulators, and so it actually suffocates the cells insulates them electrically and does not allow them to hold very much of a charge.
Mm.
So that's the container of your battery. So that's why in my own personal health practices and what my company's based on is cleaning out and charging up your cells.
Hmm.
That's particularly red blood cells because that's the largest wellness system in your body.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, that seems like just another example of kind of what I was just saying about how, if you're eating good quality fats, especially saturated fats, that's going
yeah,
to improve the myelin sheath, so the conductivity,
yes,
especially of your brain cells. And then these
yes,
toxic fats do the exact opposite of that. That's just
yes,
mind blowing. And there's a funny kind of synchronicity there because I was just watching a video earlier. I think it was Thomas DeLauer. Do you know who that is?
I do.
Yeah, I like his stuff. And he was
He's
talking
good.
about the importance of, well, everybody talks so much about carbs and how, the difference between good carbs and bad carbs is is a lot more diminished than the difference between good fats and bad fats as far as the leverage and the impact of that on the body, if that makes sense.
That's 100% accurate. I mean, to give you another example for this biophysics as the model of health you should follow, if you eat a lot of vegetable oils, you get sunburn more easily.
Hmm.
And it's because your body's already so inflamed, it can't handle the sunlight.
Oh
This is
man.
this is new.
So you mentioned something about red blood cells earlier. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit further?
Absolutely. This is something I've been working on for a while. Uh, it's super interesting, and there's not much known about it today. But back in the 1960s, this was a really big topic. So the term I'm going to use is zeta potential. Sometimes I just call it Z factor. It's just easier to say.
Hmm.
But your blood is supposed to have a high zeta potential score. And most people have a low zeta potential score in their blood. And the problem with that is that the blood is the largest wellness system in your body, bar none. If you have poor blood circulation, everything else is going to go bad for you. You're going to have low energy. You're going to have
Mm.
low oxygen delivery to the tissues. You're going to have organ problems downstream from that. Your cognition is going to be limited. You're going to have poor nutrient distribution through the body. It's an issue. So you should focus on the blood when you're focusing on your overall health and wellness, especially if you're doing daily driver activities. For health, detox, energy maintenance, whatever. So the easiest way to explain zeta potential is that there are fluids that are colloids. So most people have heard of colloidal silver.
Hmm.
What that means is that the particles in the liquid medium, they don't sink and they don't float. They're somewhere in between where they just kind of drift around and they don't stick or clump together. They're all each individual particle is individual and it's free to flow freely wherever it wants. And so blood is supposed to do the same thing, but most people have a traffic jam in their blood and they're not even aware of it. And this matters because your capillaries get down to thinner than a human hair, and one red blood cell has to fold in half like a taco to fit through the capillary to get to where it's going to deliver oxygen and nutrients.
Wow.
And yeah, and so
I love tacos.
it's crazy, right? So think of somebody walking around, they're eating Skittles and downing high sugar stuff and putting all these chemicals on their body. And so all of that is stealing electrons and it's lowering their zeta potential score in their blood. And what happens is the blood loses its colloidal nature. And instead of the cells kind of drifting around each other as individuals, they stick. And this is
Mm.
called coining or the rouleau effect. And so they'll stack up like this. They literally looks like a stack of coins. And those stacks of coins don't fit down the veins, the arteries, and they don't go in the capillaries at all. They can't fit
Wow.
down them. And so there's less oxygen delivered to the brain, less oxygen to the organs, less nutrients delivered throughout the body. And you want to hear something crazy? 100 years ago, or a little over 100 years ago, so around the turn of the last century, so like 1900, heart attacks weren't even mentioned in medical journals. They were unheard of. They didn't
Mm.
happen. It wasn't a thing. Now, 100, 120 years later, half of the population dies from heart-related illnesses and heart attacks.
That's
Why is
insane.
that? Well, their zeta potential is lower. There's and if you think of, you used the term bioweapons earlier.
Hmm.
Well, the latest bioweapon that was unleashed on the public in the last 5 years is known to cause blood clotting. Well, why does it cause that? Well, it adds all these substances like aluminum and graphene into the bloodstream that carries a very, very strong positive charge, which steals the good negative charge from the body, causes clumping of the blood and clotting. And then you have the
Mm.
downstream health effects from that,
Boy,
negative health effects.
that toxic positivity, man, it'll get you.
I know. I wish they hadn't named it that way. It's so annoying. Like, because negative charge is the good charge
Well,
and positive charge is the bad charge.
but
It's like, why did they name it that way?
to be devil's advocate here, I kind of see that as well from a nature viewpoint. Again, from taking it to the animistic, paganistic viewpoint, positive and negative aren't always good and bad when it comes to nature because it's really more about balance.
Yes.
And there is a certain level of positive charge needed in the body as well. It's not like as
True.
simple. It's not as simple as positive bad, negative good. So.
That's true. I mean, you're talking about signaling molecules. So to use the workout
Hmm.
example, I mean, that does cause some positive charge in addition to the good negative charge, and that's an inflammation in the body. And that inflammation signals the body, hey, like we got to get in shape here. So let's grow some muscle, let's lose some fat. And so you're absolutely right.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
It's like
it,
saying yes is good and no is bad. Well, it depends
right.
on what you're saying it to,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. So that's zeta potential, and it's not something that very many people know about, but it's super simple to understand. Most people are walking around with this secret traffic jam in their blood. They don't even know. And if you
That's
have low
crazy.
zeta potential in your blood, you have low oxygen. If you have low oxygen, you have low energy, and chronic disease is not far behind. If you have high zeta potential in your blood, you have high oxygen, and then you have higher energy. That's basically it. I mean, that's the most simple way to explain it is that. And so you always want to have high zeta potential in your blood, because if you have an issue in your blood circulation, it's going to manifest everywhere. You're going to think slower. Your organs aren't going to work as well. Your digestion won't work as well. It requires a lot of blood when you eat. Your blood just sinks down to your gut, which is why a lot of people get tired. And then if this goes on for weeks, months, years on end, then that's when the chronic disease shows up, and
Hmm.
it's not good.
Dude, this is amazing. I mean, a lot of this stuff I've never even heard before, and it's kind of blowing my mind. And I'm somebody who's really into health and biology and stuff like that. So this is incredible. I hope everyone else is getting a lot of value out of this. If you are, don't forget to hit the like button below and, tell the algorithms that you're liking this, and more people should see it. But so Theo, you are a formulator of a supplement company called BioRecharge. You've created this not that long ago. You've been kind of refining and streamlining it
Right.
all, but within the last couple of years. And this is a Humic and Fulvic product. So, how does Humic and Fulvic? First of all, let's talk about what that is, and then we can get into how this applies to this cellular issue that we're talking about here when it comes to the blockages and the clogging up, of these blood cells and all of this, and how humic and fulvic can actually help with that.
Right. Yeah. So to get your cell producing the optimal amount of energy, which basically means you get it to store a lot of electrical charge. You have to clean the junk out,
Mhm.
and then you have to donate electrons, and that's what Humic and Fulvic does. So, up until like 1950, uh, before the industrialization of growing our food and the NPK fertilizer that absolutely strips soils and kills everything in the soil. Humic and fulvic was pretty abundant in the food supply. You'd eat meat, it'd have it in there. You'd eat fruits, vegetables, it would have a lot in there, and we were good. But since the advent of this fertilizer, which strips these minerals out of the soil, we don't get that anymore. So, to answer your question, what is humic and fulvic? They are the organic form of trace minerals. It's like
Mm.
70 to 100 trace minerals that the cells in your body need, but they don't need very much of them. And they need them in an organic form. So, what does that actually mean? Some people
Bioavailable.
bioavailable. It means it's carrying extra electrons, is what that means.
Mm.
Some people call that ionic. And so your
Isn't it
body,
ionic, don't you think?
exactly. Yeah, that's a
I'm
great dad joke,
I'm
dude.
just here for the jokes, man. You bring the knowledge, and
Dude,
I'm the
that's
little
it.
comic punchlines.
I'm here for it too, man. This has been a good podcast with our Skynet technical challenges and helicopters and you name it, but we're getting the word out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's wait, I lost my train of thought. Where were we?
So bioavailable.
Yes,
See,
ionic.
I'll derail us with bad jokes, and then I'll help
Yep.
us get back on track too.
I love it. Yeah, so the ionic form of minerals is what you need. It makes it bioavailable, which means your cells see it and they're like, "Oh, hey, you're a friend. Like, come on through. Come into my body. Come through the cell membrane." People will go into a store and they'll buy, let's take boron as an example, or actually an easier example for most people would be magnesium. So the most common form of magnesium that is sold as a supplement is magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is not ionic, it's not bioavailable, and your body can convert maybe 1% of that to the magnesium it needs, maybe up to 4%. But magnesium oxide is actually the metallic form of magnesium. It's like literally the metal form. If you're gonna do good with magnesium, you need magnesium chloride or an elemental form of magnesium, of which there are 7, if I remember correctly. But that's a good example. So um, these trace minerals have an abundance of electrons. They're ionic, they're very bioavailable. They used to be abundant in our food supply and they're not anymore. So, where do we get them now? Well, they have to be mined, and they're only mined in a handful of places in the world. The Western US has some ancient deposits. They're about 64 million years old, and they're ancient freshwater plants that were compressed deep underground and just left for millions of years. And through that process, the minerals that the plants uptook into their bodies all that time ago were converted from the inorganic form to the organic form. And these particular minerals are supercharged because back then our atmosphere had a lot more oxygen, like double the amount that we have now. And so the plants at that time they were meaty, they were husky, they were vibrant, they were filled with vitality, they're strong plants. And so they pulled all those minerals in, converted them into their organic form, and then they're buried underground and petrified. And so the only thing that's left is this beautiful, rich, dark, um, tiny particle size organic minerals. And when they're mined, that's literally what they pull out is that it's like a powder or almost like a shale, and then it's water processed, or at least the company that I source mine from, they do a water process. One of the few companies left that does that. No chemicals, and you can take that as a supplement. And what that does is it cleans out and it energizes your cells. It's like a really good cellular detoxicant.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the only cellular detoxicants that you can take on a daily basis that actually crosses the cell membrane and removes toxins from the inside of the cell. And then while it's doing that, it donates electrons to the cells. So that is a detox daily driver, basically.
Mm, that's so dope. And the humic is the detox, correct? And then the fulvic
Yep.
is the minerals, right? So
It's
you're,
the energy part.
yeah, right.
So they're both minerals. So and the market doesn't the
Oh,
industry
okay.
doesn't do a good job of explaining this. So fulvic is a type of humic. So
Oh,
all humic includes fulvic, usually up to about 6 or 7% is fulvic. Now, the humic is a heavier, darker, actually larger molecule, and that is heavier on the detox. The fulvic is a light golden molecule, and that's heavier on the energy donation part. It still does detox, but it's heavier on the donation part. So I make both basically because different people want different things, and some people have quite the detox reaction from the
mm,
humic. So I created a fulvic product that they can add to that to offset
offset.
some of the tiring detox reactions. Yeah.
Wow, very cool. Or just be taken on its own if you're just kind of more looking for the emphasis on energy as
Right.
opposed to the detox.
Yeah, you just take it during the day. It's in a dropper bottle versus a little sachet, so it's easier to take under the tongue, and you just get a little boost.
Yeah, very cool, man. So minerals, and as a side, just a quick question on that. So does
Mhm.
this include a significant like daily intake percentage, kind of an idea of like magnesium, for example? Like if you were taking this every day, would there be any need to add in a magnesium supplement in addition, or is that you're going to get enough from it?
I think you need to add a magnesium supplement in addition. And in fact, what you want to do is take your magnesium supplement and take it with the humic and fulvic because it'll potentiate it and it'll
Mm,
make it more bioavailable. So I think there's debate on this. There's some people that say the body uses a cellular alchemy to take these trace minerals and then build whatever substance it needs. Plants actually do that, and there's a lot of evidence that human cells do that. But we live in a toxic milieu of EMF, right? It's everywhere all the time. It's even beaming down from space, and EMF actually adds a lot of positive charge to your blood. It picks it up, and so um, magnesium counteracts that, but it gets burned up in the process. So I think you need to supplement with magnesium every day because it's constantly getting burned up by all the EMF charge.
mm.
That's a little known thing is like all this EMF, it lowers the zeta potential of your blood and starts clumping together.
Fun.
Yeah. But humic and fulvic will potentiate whatever you take it with, meaning it makes it more bioavailable and more potent.
Mm.
So you can take it with food, you can take it with supplements, and it'll make them stronger. So for most people, they can use less of a supplement, like up to half as much as they were before, and they'll get more of an effect.
Okay. And so when I take this, like here's one little daily dose.
Hmm.
I put this in my large water tank. This is about half a
Yeah,
gallon, and I
that's
just
great.
sip it throughout the day. Do you
That's what
think?
I do.
Okay, so you can kind of take the slow drip method
Yep.
of like prolonged through the day, or if you're wanting more of a jolt, you could put it in a smaller vessel with some water and kind of drink it all at once, and you'll definitely feel it a lot more strongly.
Yeah, I have some people who are
Mm.
interested in the detox effect in particular. Humic fulvic is really good at detoxing heavy metals, mold, people that have had mycotoxin
Mm.
exposure, glyphosate, so that's Roundup, a herbicide that's used universally on nearly everything. Microplastics, graphene, actually from the injections,
Mhm.
it'll counteract that. So those folks, they just put it in a glass of water and they take it back first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and then it goes into the bloodstream very readily there.
Empty stomach
And
too, yeah.
yeah, it goes right into the bloodstream, and so then it increases the zeta potential, it increases circulation, increases oxygen distribution through the body, and it cleans out the blood of these circulating toxins. If you take it like we do, it potentiates everything that you are eating and drinking that day, and it's just kind of a long, sustained, healthy
Mm,
input of the
mhm.
trace minerals.
So it's kind of like two different ways that have their own strengths. So if you
Right.
have a good supply of it, then you can definitely get the most out of it by kind of doing both. Especially, if say you're doing intermittent fasting or something like that, take the more concentrated. If you're going to be eating throughout the day, do the more diluted, for example. And is it true that that will help kind of your hydration as well? Because if you're drinking it throughout the day with the water, that water is going to be more saturated into the cells, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's definitely like dead water, which is untreated RO water, reverse osmosis, or distilled water. It's dead. It lacks a good charge, is not an electron donor at
Mm-hmm.
all. And you can actually take distilled water, RO water, and add this humic or fulvic, and it'll add the right charge to the water. It makes the water more bioavailable, and then your cells will take that water and accept it through the cell membrane. And once you hydrate the inside of the cell, excuse me, the machinery starts working better,
Mm,
and it produces more energy. So from you should be carrying most of your water inside your cells,
right.
not outside your cells. So there's you, and this is actually measurable. You can do what's called a bioelectrical impedance analysis,
Mm.
very simple test, and it'll actually tell you how much water is carried inside your cells versus outside. And an unhealthy person carries most of the water outside their cells.
Yeah, that just makes so much sense. And so other benefits of this, you've got nutrient absorption, like we said,
Mhm.
minerals, detoxification. It
Yep.
it also helps balance your pH, is that right?
Yeah, well, pH is an interesting conversation because what is pH? Like most people just say, oh, it's acidic or it's not acidic. Well, that's true. But pH is just a measure of the voltage
Conductivity.
in a solution,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you use your blood or your body water for that, it's how many electrons is your blood or your bodily water carrying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's back the whole pH thing from the 80s is back to biophysics. It's how many electrons are we taking in and how many are we losing to inflammation and toxins.
Mm.
So it does balance the pH and it does add energy directly to that system. So higher, a good, less acidic pH is more oxygen and more electrons and better circulation of the blood throughout your body.
Excellent. Yeah. And so, you know, this is one of those high leverage solutions like I talk about. It's like you go for the things that is one thing that you can do that has the most impact, and this is something I take literally every day. So could you kind of go in more depth now about your specific product BioRecharge, the sourcing? I know you're very, very stringent on your standards. No contaminants tolerated, ethical and sustainable sourcing and things like this.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it a sales pitch or anything, but people that buy supplements deserve to have the best. When I first got into the supplement world as a consumer, it was years before I found out over 90% of supplements are manufactured by drug companies in China. And out of those, most of them are inert. They don't actually even have any active ingredients. They're fake. And then for most other supplements, they're going to have a lot of fillers or processing chemicals in them. So you'll often see magnesium stearate in a supplement. You say, "Oh, what is that?" Well, it's a metallic form of magnesium, and it's used as a dry machine lubricant. has no biological role in the body. And in fact, your body has to detox from it.
God.
And next time you look at a supplement, you'll see that most of them have magnesium stearate in it. And so my rules were absolutely no China or India sourced humic or fulvic. Both of those countries produce a lot of humic and fulvic, and usually it's contaminated with heavy metals almost in every case, due to the way they process it. And then my second thing was no acid processing. So it's really fast and effective to process humic and fulvic with industrial acids. The problem is that leaves a residue behind, and that residue, it doesn't feel good. It should feel better,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't. And so I found one of the only companies left. They're in Idaho. They have their own, private deposit that is deep underground. It's not an open pit mine, so it's not exposed to geoengineering trails. And it's in the mountains, so it's far from agricultural overspray contamination, which open pit mines are subject to. That's mined from underneath a sandstone cap, so there's no groundwater penetration. The groundwater sits on top of the cap,
Mm.
so you don't. It's completely uncontaminated, completely pristine, and then it's water processed, which takes weeks. They put it in water, and there's a whole specific gravity thing as it kind of filters through, and they have to spin it in centrifuges several times. Like, it's a whole thing. But by the end, you're getting the most pure, raw, wild harvested product that you can possibly get. And it shows. Like, when people take this is one of the highest single dose humic and fulvic products on the market, at least in North America. And I've had people send it back because they're detoxing too hard,
Mm.
which is why I created the other product to kind of pair with this one, Bio Boost, which is just
Mm.
straight fulvic.
It's this one.
And it adds energy if you're detoxing too hard. And if people send it back, that's fine. It's guaranteed. So, you get their money back and it's all good. But, I've had, one lady is, oh, my hair samples or my blood's testing higher for arsenic now, and it wasn't before. I'm like, well, yeah, it's literally pulling that out of your body, and it's doing it really fast. You need to take more. And she did. And that's kind of the backstory. And the original reason that I got into it is because I paid for my college, being a commercial herbicide applicator. So I used to spray Roundup or glyphosate every day, uh, day in and day out, and I was covered in it, covered in it.
Jeez.
And I've had gut problems my entire life. Every time I'd eat, it looked like ET, man. I was just this huge bloat. And took a long time for me to diagnose that a leaky gut, and then it had even longer time for me to figure out it was from spraying this crap when I was in college. And one of the only things that actually pulls out glyphosate or Roundup is humic and fulvic. It's one of the only things. And then I found out about zeta potential and blood and poor circulation and red blood cells clumping together and coining. And I was like, oh, geez. I mean, because you drink this stuff, the particles are so small, it goes into your blood like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so every organ in your body is nourished by these trace minerals and more oxygen. So it's a really easy way to increase oxygen saturation in your tissues. And I think it was Otto Warburg who won a Nobel Prize in medicine. He has a great quote. I actually have it written down here, because I want to share this with people because it's just so gnarly. Like, when you read this, Nobel Prize winner Dr. Otto Warburg of Germany won his Nobel Prize for his discovery of oxygen deficiency in the cancer growth process. So he was the one that discovered that cancer is a process of fermentation in the absence of oxygen, and that's the source of all cancer. And as your blood zeta potential drops, it carries less oxygen, and that's when the problems arise. So um, that's kind of the scoop. It's like energy is a currency of life, and cellular oxygen availability drives more energy.
Man.
That's it.
Yeah, that is powerful. And so, what are some of the most notable benefits that like your customers have reported back after using this for a good amount of time?
Energy.
Okay.
They have more energy. It's that. So the detoxification aspect removes toxins that clutter up the machinery inside your cells, and it makes them operate better. So they start producing more energy, and then every time you drink this stuff, it's nature's most powerful electrolyte. And electrolyte just means that it is carrying a lot of voltage in a liquid solution. So for that's the most reported benefit. I mean, I've had people drink this stuff and just be wired all day in a good way, in like a holistic way. And I've had other people drink it and they're tired and they're upset and they say, "Well, I thought this was going to give me energy." And I just say, "Well, that means that your toxic burden is higher. You have a choice. You can send it back, give you all your money back, and that's fine, or you can keep taking it
Yeah, keep going.
and get through this detox phase and then have better energy for the rest of your life." You know,
Exactly.
it's if you've built up toxins over years and decades, it's not an overnight thing. I think the people that get like the people that are like super wired right away, I think those people have already done a ton of detoxes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main thing that people experience is more energy.
That's great, and it's something obviously people are really lacking. This Z factor, or what did you call it? Z,
Zeta potential.
yeah, Z
The
potential.
Z factor sounds cooler.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be affecting most
Yeah.
people probably,
Clean up
and
your blood and oxygenate it, and I mean, your day-to-day lived experience is gonna be better.
mhm.
No question.
But that goes to show, you can give people the tools, but they still have to do the work. They still got to power through that detox, phase to get to the
Mhm.
light on the other side, basically.
Yep.
But yeah, so I want to give everyone watching the opportunity to, check this out. I'll put a link down in the description. Again, there is I will get commission from anything that anyone gets on this, but I literally use this every single day and have for how long has it been now, Theo? Like 2 years?
At least, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
still take it every day myself. I've been on it for, gee, 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I even spray it on my face.
Wow.
It's actually a great topical. You can put it on your skin, and then whatever you put on top of your skin, I use beef tallow, it'll absorb through your skin better, and so you get all that
Oh,
vitamin E, like, right through your skin.
that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I've made sure that I don't run out of this when I'm getting low. And, at first there you were, struggling to even keep up with demand because people were just scooping it up. And like, I was getting a little frantic, like, no, I need to get more, man. So, I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, it's incredible. It's definitely, something I don't want to do without. And I'll continue to keep it, or, keep it handy as long as, you're putting it out. And then this is the fulvic, so you can use this as well to offset some of those detox symptoms as well. So, again, I can't recommend this enough. You guys know I don't do a lot of this kind of promotional stuff, and I certainly will never do anything if I don't really believe in it. Without, I mean, I'm not kidding. I use it every single day, and I don't go without it. So check that out in the link below, and you can learn a bit more about it on that landing page. So,
Yeah, you're the real deal, man, and you are often in some adverse conditions.
mhm.
I know you do a lot of travel and you're in unfamiliar environments, not always access to clean water and stuff like that. And when I travel, I throw one of those, well, a handful of those packets in my backpack. And if I'm in an airport and I'm like, oh God, I can't find one thing of water that's in a glass bottle, I'll get it in the plastic, but I'll throw a packet of that in, and it deals with the microplastics. It cleans the water for me.
Mm, yeah,
So it's a pretty cool thing.
absolutely. So yeah, man, is there anything else you want to kind of leave people with? We've I want to kind of come full circle back to, this is a real solution to what we talked about. Like if you're serious about life, serious about your spiritual practice, about your magic, something like this is so easy to, just dump this in your water. You're going to drink water anyways. You just put it in, it dissolves instantly, and it's going to do so much work for you without you even really having to think about it too much. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah,
a no-brainer.
there aren't a lot of guys in the biophysics equals health, electrical energy equals health field, but one of my favorites is Dr. Jerry Tennant, and he says if you can heal one cell, you can heal them all. And
Mm,
what he's really saying there is focus at the cell level of health. And so there aren't very many substances around. This is one of the only ones I can think of that it cleans out the inside of your cells, which is very difficult to do. Most things won't cross the cell membrane. And it donates electrons to the inside of the cell, to the mitochondria. And so if you do that over time, you just get ahead of a lot of issues. You start feeling better. You have more energy. You're cleaner from the inside out. And, if you are looking for spiritual ascension, this is not going to make you enlightened, but it's certainly going to help you on your journey. And it's a low barrier to entry, kind of frictionless thing to do. Because,
that's
like I
true.
mentioned before, it's consistency that matters.
Hmm.
I run into people that are, oh my God, I found this crazy detox. It's a 2-day colon blast. It's actually a real story from a friend of mine. And I'm like, dude, that's going to be so hard on your body. You need to do this like gently over time. He's like, no, it's great, and he went through this and it just thrashed him. And it's like, imagine if you just do a little bit of improvement for, days, weeks, months, years, like
Hmm.
you're a different person, man. I mean, all cells in your body are replaced within 7 years. And so if you give the cells the materials they need and keep them clean and give them energy, they're pretty happy.
Beautifully said, man. Yeah, love it.
So
So I think that's a great place to wrap this up. Theo, man, I learn so much every time we talk. It's always a pleasure having you on, and you're always welcome back on the show. I'm sure there's lots of other stuff we could get into. I hope everyone got as much value out of this conversation as I did. Please like the video, leave some comments below. What did you think of this? What did you learn, or what do you have to add to the conversation, or whatever questions you might have. So yeah, man, uh, great chat. Really, really appreciate you coming on here again. And anyone who wants to follow Theo, you can go to forgottenhealth.com. Is that right?
that's
Subscribe to
it.
the.
Yeah, that's the easiest one because I send out a newsletter
Mm-hmm.
once a week on Fridays that it's called Forgotten Friday, and it's like 99% content, and it's awesome. We talk about like weird, esoteric, forgotten health things that
Yeah.
aren't commonly known anymore.
It's one of the
So
few newsletters I actually stay on and read and don't just unsubscribe. So yeah, that's great. And then
cool.
you recently relaunched your YouTube channel, right? So
I did.
we can
Yeah,
put a
yeah.
link
So
we
I've
can
got
put a
my
link down
seven
there.
day, yeah, I've got my 7-day dry fast experience on there.
Yeah, listen,
Um,
this man had a semi-viral video a few years ago about EMFs around the 2020 era, and
mhm.
YouTube, in all of their wisdom, they shut him down. So he's trying to get back in the game. So please support him. Go and give him a subscribe on YouTube and get his numbers back up. He
Yeah,
deserves it.
the Matrix was not a fan of my 5G video, but people were.
Yeah,
Yeah, so well, cool, man. No,
yeah,
I really appreciate it. This was fun, and I hope people
absolutely.
gain something from it. And always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, no, this was absolutely awesome. So that's it, guys. Obviously, you know what to do. Follow us on Wizard Factory on all of the social media platforms. Check out our Patreon, and don't forget about the initiation package as well. Sign up for that below. Take the mini course and get into the Inner Sanctum private group. So that's going to wrap us up for today. I will, be back with more content soon. So again, make sure you have your notifications on, and stick with me, guys, through the thick and thin. I'm never going to give up. There's going to be slow periods, but I'm coming back with a vengeance here very soon. But I wanted to get this episode out and give you guys something, and I think it was definitely worth it. So amazing chat, brother, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. But until then, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged. Take care.